Welcome back to the series where I turn pride flags into Pokemon teams. For this video, I'm using the bisexual flag. I'm just gonna say right now that this was one of the hardest pride flags I've ever had to do for a Pokemon team. Not many Pokemon have this exact shade of blue, pink, and purple. And as someone that is extremely perfectionist when it comes to making this team, it was not easy. Today, I am using a full team of Pokemon with the colors of the bisexual flag. Special thank you to your boy Cameron, Zach Tanak, Ace and Cowboy, Breakfast Man, I'm always going at a good speed, and Plum Gamora for suggesting this team idea. If you have a pride flag you would like to see turned into a Pokemon team, please comment one down below, and I will use it. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, lovely people. Today I am using a bisexual flag team. This is my most requested pride flag video. In fact, this is my most requested video period, so I'm happy to be doing it. This team is very interesting, as you can see. So I have two really interesting battles to showcase in this video, and I hope you enjoy them. Now, I'm leading things off here with my Sableye. I'm going to paralyze this Dragapult turn 1, because obviously Dragapult is a very fast Pokemon, but it's going to be dual screens Dragapult, which I wasn't expecting, and that's a big pain for me to deal with. So I still do half damage to this Dragapult with the Foul Play. This is a really interesting Sableye set. I'm like specially defensive, and I have Thunder Wave, Foul Play, Nightshade, and Recover on this. So Toxtricity comes in. I am really worried about this Pokemon setting up like a Shift Gear. I know that it's probably going to be a Throat Spray set, and as I bring in my Espeon, I end up getting critical hitted by the Overdrive. Not that that really mattered, because I was probably going to get 2-hit KO'd by whatever this Toxtricity did to me anyway. So they're going to opt to Terrasilize their Toxtricity. I'm actually running a Choice Scarf Espeon, and this turn I just opted to go for the Psychic just to get some damage on this thing. They end up Terrasilizing into Terra Normal, which immediately tells me that they're going to be going for that Boom Burst. That Terra Normal Boom Burst with this Punk Rock is just going to wipe me out. Now, like I said, I had a hard time choosing a lot of the Pokemon on this team. Espeon is there just because of the fact that it has that pink gem on its head, and it has the purple body. It's not the same shade of purple as on the bisexual flag. It's more lavender, if anything, but the main thing with this team was that I wanted to include pink, purple, and blue, because those are the three main colors in the bisexual flag. So I'm going to be able to paralyze this Toxtricity now that it Terrasilizes, and I'm going to swap into my Eternatus. This team is crazy. I have some really interesting Pokemon on this team, and since I'm using an Eternatus, I opted to nerf this set. Now, normally, Eternatus is a very strong, bulky special attacker. I'm running a physical Dragon Dance Eternatus. That Outrage doesn't even take it out through screens, and wow, Boom Burst just owns me there. Holy. Now, the good thing is that Toxtricity, it didn't set up a Shift Gear, so I'm going to be able to outspeed it with my Gligar, and that's going to be able to take it out because I'm running a more offensive Gligar rather than a defensive one, which is going to be really interesting. So, Toxtricity is taken out, but it took out my Espeon, and it took out my Eternatus, which is funny, but yeah, it really took out a lot of my speedier Pokemon on this team. So Lapras comes in. I'm definitely fearing some kind of ice move. Not sure if it's a Dragon Dance or if it's just going to be special attacking. Wow, that Hydro Pump did quite a lot of damage. Sableye does not have the best HP whatsoever. I'm also running Terra Poison on this Sableye. Sableye was also a good pick for the bisexual flag because it does have the, well, first of all, it has the purple body, but if you see in the back of it, it has the red. Well, it has a red but pinkish gem on it. It kind of matches the pink on the bisexual flag, but it also has the blue gem as well, which is neat. So I could put it on this team. This and obviously Toucannon were the best bisexual representation. So the Dragapult is going to set up a light screen. I was fine with that because it really only affected my Toucannon in the back, which is a special Toucannon. But I was able to take out the Dragapult, which ensured that the screens were no longer going to be a nuisance. At least not for another 7 turns or so. So I'm going to bring in Cosmog. I was like, go Cosmog. Yeah, I really didn't have a lot for this Cinderace. This Cosmog is really interesting though. I do have quite a good set on that. Also, Cosmog, if you flip it upside down, it's the bisexual flag. So bringing back in my Gligar here, I have naturally good defense and I have an Eviolite on this, so I know that I can tank anything from the Cinderace. So I'm just gonna get off my Earthquake chip versus the Lapras. Now this turn, I was worried about Lapras having a freeze dry because I'm running Terra Water on this, which would still be super effective, but I thought, well, if they decide to go for Hydro Pump, I could be able to still resist that and like 3-hit KO this Lapras with the Earthquake because I'm running a max attack Adamant nature on this Gligar. So they do go for the Hydro Pump. They don't have Freeze Dry, and wow, I actually tanked that really well. So the Eviolite bulk is really coming in handy for me. So they are going to bring in Sceptile. Now, Sceptile can be one of two things. Actually, one of three things. This Pokemon can either set up Swords Dance, it could Shed Tail, or it could just be like a Life Orb special attacker. So I'm going to bring in my Sableye. Not sure what this, not the Sableye, the Sceptile is going to want to do. And they end up being the physical Leaf Blade set. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for my Prankster Thunder Wave because Sceptile is very fast. And if it is unburdened, then even if it gets that double speed boost, I should be able to handle it. But they end up going for Double Team. I was like, no, don't do this. I don't want to deal with evasion shenanigans. Please. So this turn I thought, well, I'm just going to stay in. They're probably just going to go for another Leaf Blade. But if they decide to double team, they risk getting taken out by a Foul Play. So they end up just taking me out with the Leaf Blade, which is fine. So I was like, okay, it's time for me to bring in my Toucannon. The light screen wears off. And this is a Choice Specs Toucannon. This is like a Bicon right here. This is the bisexual icon for Pokemon. And I just one-shot the Sceptile with Boom Burst. This is Sheer Force with Boom Burst, Hurricane, Heat Wave, and Flash Cannon. Now the Cinderace is going to go for the Iron Head. That's going to turn it into a Steel type, which is going to allow it to resist Boom Burst, but it also flinches me, which is really unfortunate. And that's going to 2-hit KO my my Toucannon. This Life Orb Cinderace is really powerful, but it also gives me a good opportunity to set up my Gligar. So the flinch really didn't get me down too much because as they go for the low kick, I am able to tank that. Thankfully they weren't high jump kick, and they wouldn't have gotten stabbed from that either because they became a Steel type. So I'm gonna go for the agility. That's gonna ensure that I outspeed this, and they have an Arcanine in the back that I was worried about. So I wanted to outspeed the Arcanine, and as they bring in the Arcanine, they don't have Intimidate, and they go for the Extreme Speed, but wow, the Extreme Speed does like nothing to me. I was like, okay, maybe this is like a more bulky Arcanine. I'm not sure. But as I go for the Terra Water Crabhammer, that just one-shots the Arcanine. I honestly was not expecting Arcanine to get one-shot by that because if it was like a more bulky Arcanine, it could have lived on like a very small amount of health. But I'm going to take out the Lapras, and the Gligar ended up winning me the game. I was like, wow, thank you so much, Gligar. I used to really not like Gligar, actually, fun fact, but I've been using it a lot lately, and it has been so fun to use. I've actually warmed up to it. That's a really interesting thing when it comes to doing Pokemon battles. It's just, sometimes you use a Pokemon that you don't like, but then you end up liking it because it ends up putting in work. So, we have another Dual Squeeze lead, onto the second battle, by the way, and I'm just going to go for the Trick immediately on this Grimmsnarl, give it a Choice Scarf. Now, this Espeon is Trick, Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Alluring Voice with Terra Fairy. I've run a Choice Scarf Espeon very recently, actually, but this one's timid instead of modest. So they end up going for the Party Shot as I bring in my Gligar, which is a little unfortunate because I have Magic Bounce on my Espeon, so it would have forced me out, but like, yeah, they're gonna end up getting forced out into their Alomomola. Now, I have uploaded over 100 Pokemon theme team videos, and I don't think I've ever uploaded a single game versus Alomomola because wow, that Pokemon is like really good, and it's also really bulky, and it is a pain to battle against. I don't have the highest win record against this Pokemon, but I thought, okay, well, I have my Sableye here, and the Alomomola went for the Protect, which tells me that it's not like an Assault Vest Alomomola with like Mirror Coat, maybe. So Clodsire is going to come in. They have a very bulky team. It's so heinous to run dual screens with like bulky Pokemon like Aloe and Clodsire because like you're just like stalling your own like screen turns just because of how bulky your Pokemon are. So I'm going to bring in my Espeon on what I expect to be like entry hazards or something, and I end up bouncing back to Toxic, which is nice. Now, this turn I thought, well, I could go for the Psychic here. The problem with their team is that they have 3 Dark types, and they have the Clodsire, and they have an Excadrill, which are 2 ground types. So my Thunder Wave Sableye is like immune versus like 5 of their Pokemon, which is really funny. So they're gonna go for another Parting Shot. That's gonna Party Shot my Espeon out, and I thought, well, this is fine because now they're locked into that. And if this Grimmsnarl is Prankster, which it for certain should be. Well, it is because they outspent my Espeon. I can bring in my Sableye and block the Parting Shot because I am a Dark type, and Dark types are immune to Prankster moves. So they're going to bring in the Clodsire again, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go for the Nightshade. I was trying to chip down the Grimmsnarl, actually, but the Clodsire is just going to be a bulky nuisance for me to deal with. This Pokemon is so tanky, and it has, like, really good abilities in Water Absorb and Unaware. It's always a pain to deal with. So my initial switch in was Espeon, so I thought, I don't want them to go for hazards against me. Even if they go for Toxic, I do have immunity on this, so I can't get poisoned. And I'm going to go for the Earthquake this turn. They decide to stay in with the Clodsire, and I just one-shot the Clodsire. Oh my gosh, they probably weren't expecting me to be so offensive, but honestly, I was surprised I even got that KO. So Alomomola comes back in. I'm really worried about a Scald from this Pokemon, or just like any kind of like move to really cripple me. So they are going to go for the flip turn. I was really thinking they would go for the Scald that turn, try to burn me, because Alomomola is very defensive. And they bring in the Tyranitar as they go for the flip turn. So this turn I thought, well, I'm expecting this Pokemon to want to go for like a Stone Edge. Maybe even set up hazards if it does have Stealth Rocks instead of Clodsire. So I'm going to opt to Terrasilize my Toucannon into the Steel type. And I'm going to go for the Terra Steel Flash Cannon. Try to do as much damage as possible. Maybe even take out this Tyranitar. So they are going to go for the Stone Edge. I am able to resist that. Still does a lot of damage to me though. And I'm going to go for the Flash Cannon here. So I was like, okay, this should do some really good damage to the Tyranitar. And it does, but it just lives. But I had a plan. So I'm going to bring in my Cosmog here. I'm hoping that they go for a physical contacting move, but they go for the Earthquake. I was like, shoot, that was not ideal. I take a lot of damage from this. So as I get hit by the Sandstorm, I thought, okay, well, they're going to set up the Dragon Dance. Now that's fair because Cosmog, if you don't know Cosmog, it only gets 2 moves. It gets Splash, which is useless, and it gets Teleport. And Teleport is actually a really good move because it's a negative priority version of U-Turn that could allow me to pivot out into any Pokemon. So as I bring in my Espeon here, I was like, okay, I really want to bait like a Knockoff or a Crunch, and I'm going to bring in my Cosmog again, see if they go for that. They do go for the Crunch, and as they obviously take out my Cosmog, I have a Rocky Helmet on this, so I'm able to get a KO with Cosmog. How many people have said that in their life? Oh my gosh. Also, that Cosmog is named after the Twitch streamer and Bicon, a Wildcat, who made my profile picture on YouTube. So shout out to her. I named her after Cosmog because she does space buns with her hair. So Excadrill comes in. They set up a Swords Dance. They probably assumed that I'm not running like Will-O-Wisp because I went for Thunder Wave, or Foul Play because obviously I had Nightshade. But they are in for a rude awakening because I was able to Foul Play and just one-shot the Excadrill, and that's really good because that is like their biggest sweeper gone, and they only have like these really defensive Pokemon, being the Alomomola and this Mandibuzz here. Now, I made a bit of a misplay swapping hard into my Espeon because while that Foul Play did quite a lot of damage, and as I take more Sandstorm Chip, I thought I'm just going to go for the Alluring Voice. Does less than half, which is still good damage, and they're just going to U-turn and take out my Espeon. I don't think I should have like sacked that, but at the same time, my Sableye really couldn't do much to this Mandibuzz, and I was worried about Toxic also because if they went for Toxic, then I could have Magic Bounced that with the Espeon. So I'm going to bring in my Eternatus. Now, this turn I thought, well, they might set up a Light Screen here because obviously Eternatus is very much known for its special attack. It has a base 145 special attack stat, but of course, me being me, I'm using its far more inferior 85 attack stat because I wanted to nerf this thing. It would be a little unfair if I used like a special attacking like Dynamax cannon set, so I wanted to run a Dragon Dance Eternatus. So I'm gonna go for the Gunk Shot. The Foul Play still does quite a bit of damage just because I have a lot of attack investment, but as I go for another Gunk Shot, that is going to be able to take out the Mandibuzz, and the last Pokemon is the Alomomola. I also thought Eternatus was pretty okay for the Bisexual flag because it has the pink and it has like shades of purple and blue on it too. So I'm going to speed up this part of the battle because Alomomola is a pain. So this turn I thought, okay, I don't want to hard switch into my Toucannon because if they get off the Scald Burn, which they did on my Eternatus, then they could just protect and they could take out my Toucannon, and my Gligar, my Sableye, and this Pokemon, my Eternatus, aren't going to be able to handle this Alomomola. They're not going to be able to beat it because it's so bulky. So I just opted to continuously go for the Dragon Dances, get this Pokemon as low as possible. And as I go for the Outrage, it still doesn't even take it to half because I'm burnt. And they're going to go for the Flip Turn. And after the burn damage, it's going to be enough to take me out. But that was fine. Wow, my Eternatus just got 1v1 by Alomomola. But I'm going to be able to safely bring in my 2 cannon. I should outspeed this as well because I do have some speed investment. Mainly enough for like Skeleturge and Corviknight. But the Boom Burst is easily going to take out the Alomomola. Finally, I uploaded a win versus that Pokemon. I'm telling you, even though that Pokemon isn't really the most seen on Wi-Fi, it is a heinous Pokemon. But I'm happy to finally get a win against that Pokemon under my belt. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this bisexual flag team. My name is SkyLaaa. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you all next time.